My name is Shane Murphy, and I wanted to make this video to tell my story of the history of my SSRI and Benzo withdrawal. Uh, this has been a hard thing to do. I believe I can. This was really hard for me to even want to talk about on here, but I really felt like I can do this, and the story needs to get out. So I decided to do this. My SSRI story started many years ago. I took more SSRIs than benzos. So mine mainly deals with SSRIs, though benzos will come in the story a little later, and I'm probably going to make several parts of this. My SSRI story started in about 2002. I don't even remember the date, month, or anything, because I never thought I'd have this kind of problem, but I started having a problem with sleep problems. It turns out I'm mildly autistic. Didn't know that for most of my life, and I'll make a video about that sometime too, but I'm going to mainly deal with this video, of course, is about my SSRI and benzo story. I started having sleep problems. I couldn't sleep. My adrenaline would just skyrocket. I could not rest. I went several days without sleep. I was going crazy at this time. I guess being autistic partly had something to do with it, my high cortisol levels, but I was having a hard time, and I decided to go to a doctor and see what was happening. They put me on some kind of meds. Don't even remember what they were. I took them. Didn't really help very much. Took me forever to sleep. Took those. Like I said, didn't do anything. Later on, I was put on Ambien, oddly enough, for 2 weeks. Had another experience with Ambien later on in my life, as I'll reveal here. But they put me on Ambien, for 2 weeks. It didn't really work either. I slept about 6 or 7 hours, and that was about it. And after I got off the drug, I had problems with it again. Could have been withdrawal from it at that time, but I wasn't sure. I knew nothing about those things, and didn't have the internet or anything. So I went back to my doctor. I was just going crazy because I couldn't sleep. Well, I went to a psychiatrist at the Riverbend Mental Institution here in Florence, Alabama, which is where I live, as you can probably tell by my hat and my shirt that I'm from Alabama here in the United States. And I went to that, and they put me on Withdrawal to help me sleep, but the main thing they put me on was 50 milligrams of Zoloft. Well, I took the Zoloft. Of course, I knew no better. I was desperate. I remember my doctor's words. I don't even remember his name, because I've had so many doctors when I was at that place, which I'll get into later also. But he said, you just got a little wound up, or whatever he said, and said, this is what you need. Well, I was messed up at the time, and I'd never even been to a doctor much in my life, so I took it, of course. Well, the moment I took it, of course, I became a zombie, but it was good for me at that time because I couldn't sleep, and I was starting to sleep. I took the drug, and it helped a little bit. I was sleeping, and of course I was taking the Withdrawal too. Things are very hard for me to get off of. Probably because of my autism, I have a hard time dealing with certain things. Probably more than you, and I don't mean that in an insulting way, but probably even more than the average person. I have trouble dealing with things when they happen to me. When I, lose my focus. And I lose my repetitive life the way it always is. Well, I had problems with that, but I finally started sleeping better, and I guess I thought that was good. So finally I quit the Withdrawal later on down the line. Finally quit the Withdrawal, but there was no doubt the Zoloft was doing weird things to me. Not as much emotionally, but in other ways. First of all, I noticed that, well, I'll give you an example. I know I had an allergic reaction because one time I completely broke out all over my body. I wished I had pictures at the time that I could put on the internet and show. I was completely red. I had a rash on me. Broke out all over. Itched me like crazy. Broke out all over here, all over my chest. I mean, it was solid red. And itched. It was like welts, and I had little bits of it on my back. Of course, I didn't know what the world was going on. I was young at the time. I went to a doctor. He said that he thought it was because I was maybe jogging outside in the heat, because I jogged all the time, every day. He thought it was that, so I took a cortisone shot, and thankfully it finally went away. It took about a week, and it was finally gone, so I didn't think any more about it. But other things started happening. I would have little muscle movements, like in my arm. I would have little pulse. It was like a pulse. You could see it moving. It didn't hurt, but you could see it moving. I had that all over my body and my feet. Sometimes in my hands, like I was showing, or arms. I would have it in my eye, where my eye would just go dee 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 dee. And it would start twitching. You could actually see it just going dee 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 and twitching. Didn't know what all that was about. And of course, I stayed on the drugs so long. I don't know why I did. I really don't, but I did. I stayed on it for a long, long time, and I had other things that happened to me. For example, I jog all the time. I jog until now, which I'll get into later. But I jog every day for an hour. I'm not a couch potato. I don't sit on the couch eating Doritos all day. I was jogging an hour every day, and I gained 45 pounds. When you gain 45 pounds and you're jogging every day, something's wrong. I didn't always eat right, because I would eat fast food, and things like that. But I gained 45 pounds. That's not normal. I had a gut like a beer belly. And by the way, I've never drank in my life, so that didn't make no sense. And another thing that happened was I lost my hair. And I had a full, thick head of hair, and literally in about a month's time, I lost all, and it was down to this. I don't know if you can see it real well. I haven't got my hair combed, but as you can see, I lost all of my hair. Just a complete nightmare. I didn't know what was going on. Lost my hair. I didn't associate all this with the drug, because I was not given anything about the drug. I got no pamphlet that tells you, about the side effects and all this and that. They gave me samples, and it was Zoloft, of course. Like I said, it was Zoloft, and they just gave me the little Zoloft picture on the samples. That's all I had. So I didn't know anything. This was ridiculous. I was going through all of this, and I was tired all the time. It was just like I was young and in my 20s, and I couldn't stay awake. I was like I was 60 years old. Just ridiculous, what I was going through, and I couldn't believe what I was enduring. I just couldn't believe this, and it was just ridiculous. I didn't know what to do, and I was feeling so bad. Finally, I said, I'm getting off this drug. I was exercising every day, weightlifting and running every day, and I still had like a gut. And I said, I'm not doing this. It's got to be the drug. I'm going to get off this. And I'll tell you exactly what got me to thinking I need to get off this in my next video. So just watch part 2. You'll learn about that too, because I can't obviously make too long of a video. YouTube won't make it won't be able to keep it, make a copy of it. So just watch that next part. Thanks, guys. Okay, so as I was saying in part 1, what I went through was just an absolute nightmare. Taking the drug, I was having so many side effects that I didn't know that. I didn't know, there were side effects: the hair loss, the weight gain, the twitches and strange sensations, and bowel movements. I would use the bathroom and it would just run. I would use the bathroom and it was just like diarrhea. Couldn't control that. It was a nightmare. Just couldn't believe it. And as I said, all of this I did not know was from the Zoloft. I did not know. I had no knowledge of this. I had no knowledge of the drugs, and I could not believe that this was happening to me. I remember too, one of the other most notable side effects I had from the drug was apathy. and just this no care, this indifference to everything. I can't drive. I never learned to drive, which I'll go into sometime if I can in another video. But I can't drive, and for all the years that I was on the Zoloft, I never tried to learn to drive. I didn't care about it. I didn't go out with friends. I just didn't care. Obviously, didn't try to go to school or do anything. So, of course, I couldn't, and that's another story that I'll get into on another video if I can as well. But just an indifference to life. I didn't care about anything. Nothing. I didn't care about doing anything. I didn't care about being around anybody. Just a complete nightmare. I couldn't believe that I was acting the way I was acting too. I was very emotional, angry a lot, and I finally just decided. I got a book. My grandmother passed away, and this is another sign that something was wrong. Both of my grandparents passed away, and I had no emotion much. I had to pretend to cry so they wouldn't think I was heartless, piece of garbage, I had no emotion. I didn't care. It was like I just had no desire. I think people could have fallen dead right in front of me. I didn't care. Part of my indifference. Well, after she died and we cleaned out her house, she had pill books, that tell what the pill is. They're old books. So a few of the drugs that I ended up taking weren't even in the book, but it had the, what the drug was, and what the side effects were, blah blah blah. Well, they gave me one. Said, here, you can have this one. We don't need it. Nobody really wants it anyway. So I said, okay. Well, I got the Zoloft and I looked it up, and I looked at the side effects, and I was seeing all of these unbelievable side effects, just millions it seemed like of them. And I realized I had them all. I had the extreme fatigue. I had the indifference. I had the hair loss. I had the weight gain. I had muscle protrusion. I started looking bigger than I was. It was very strange, hard to describe. But I saw that, and I thought, this drug's not good. I'm getting off this thing. Well, I never asked my doctor because they never would even see me anyway. I saw them every 3 months. And by the way, they never checked my blood pressure. They never checked my heart. They never checked my weight. They didn't do anything that you're supposed to do now that I of course know of now about these drugs to make sure that you're okay. They never did none of that. Never checked me. So of course I never thought the drug was dangerous. I would lie about the side effects, sadly enough, and it was very strange why. For some reason I just continued taking it. I don't even know why. It was almost like I don't know why. It's hard to even describe. But I was scared I wouldn't sleep again. And like I said, that obviously has a lot to do with my autism, and I'm very OCD-like. And I was scared I wouldn't sleep, because that really gave me a traumatic experience when I couldn't sleep. It was hard on me. So I would lie about the side effects and say that I was fine, But as I said, I didn't see them much anyway. They never gave me any impression this drug was dangerous. They never gave me any impression that, it'd be hard to get off of or anything. So I didn't think anything about this. I took the drug. And in 2008, starting in September, I tapered. I was on 50 milligrams, and I tapered to 25 one day, 50 the next day. Did that for a month. Next month, I did 25 one day, nothing the next day. I did that for a month. And then in November, I stopped. Well, during my taper time, I got real sick. I mean, not sick that I was going to die, or anything like that, but it was like a cold. It was just like a big cold. I got real nauseated, very nauseated, tired, sick, unbelievable seasickness. It was like anytime I moved, it was like, just a horrible feeling. I never threw up, but I felt like throwing up a lot. For some reason, I continued exercising. How I did, I don't even know. I kept lifting the weights and exercising, even though I felt like complete hell. But in about a month, it was gone. Even before I completely quit taking the drug, and I thought, hey, I'm doing okay, And then I stopped taking the drug. Stopped taking it in November, and I was fine except for I was still very fatigued. And I didn't understand why I was fatigued. I would go jog and I would just give out, even though I'd been jogging for 10 years. I was give out, and I would go on websites, and I looked it up, and I went in this Zoloft forum. I don't even remember what it was, and I was asking, man, I don't feel good. I'm still feeling weird. I'm just not feeling right. And they said, oh, well, you'll be okay. They said it's just probably the discontinuation syndrome. You'll be fine, in probably about a month or so, you'll be back to normal. So I did. Well, I waited, and I wasn't. I was still feeling like crap. Well, I started having paranoid thinking, just obsessing and in fear. I was just terrified. I worried about the country, something bad was going to happen to it. I worried about me and my mom dying and my sister dying or something. It would just be me, and I'd be alone, and I was just terrified, That's the way I was. It was just this terror that I could not explain and I did not understand. And I was just scared. I would wake my mom up tons of times in the night. One night I woke her up about 13 times. I woke her up and I was just terrified. So scared. I said, Mom, I was just trembling. I was trembling, and I was like, Mom, please hold my hand. I'm so scared, And she would sit there. I'd keep her up all night, and usually I would just fall asleep in her arms because I was like a child again. I was just like a child again, terrified. That lasted for a pretty good while. I also had, at night, especially at night, but anytime, throughout the withdrawal, I started having strange feelings in my body. Like, it would feel like I was on a roller coaster. It would go up, my heart rate would go up, and then zoom, and it would just go down, and it was just a horrible feeling. It was like a crampiness, and then it would just go up real hard and down. It was like I said, like I'm riding a roller coaster, and I could not believe how that felt. Just a nightmare, horrible feeling, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I was so scared. And finally, I was real depressed, real anxious. To show how bad I got, I'd call my mom, for example, at work all the time. Call her all the time, bugging her to death at her workplace because I was depressed, angry, anxious, nervous. I didn't exercise. I quit exercising because I just didn't feel like it. And I was scared. Just didn't know what to do. I would literally sit in our lounge chair, it's right over here by me, and I would sit there and just hold myself in fear. I was like I was curled up in a little ball, and I was just like I was terrified, like a little child that his mommy had left him. I was terrified. Well, my sister, who was still living here at the time in the area, came by one day, and all she kept telling me was, "Well, you just weren't on the right drug," because of course I was off the Zoloft in withdrawal, and I didn't know that. And she kept saying, "Oh, well, you just don't have the right drug yet." That's one of the things I remember through this whole thing. Well, I just hadn't found the right drug yet, even though I never took drugs my whole life, anything. I never smoked, I never drank, I never did, of course, cocaine or heroin or anything like that, LSD or anything like that, and here I was in a complete nightmare. Terrified beyond belief. Well, everybody was, "Oh, you're just depressed. What is it? You need drugs." Well, I was looking for a doctor because I thought something was wrong with me, But man, maybe I'm really messed up, I need drugs, And I looked up a doctor, and I found her. Her name was Rebecca Suzanne Daly in this area. I went to her, and she diagnosed me. And it's funny, even with my diagnosis of autism, I have the autistic symptoms. But I think some of the symptoms that she thought made me autistic, I think I had because of the withdrawal from the Zoloft. I was trembling, I was real cold. I had that problem too. Freezing cold. It was cool outside, but not that cold, And it was actually even in the 60s, high 60s to 70s, and I was freezing cold. It was just like it was 2 degrees outside. I was just, I was so cold. And I went to her, and I also had an awkward walk when she tested me. This kind of when you walk, it's almost like a drunk walk. You stumble, and I was just kind of, like that. And I think that could have been from my autism too. Well, I better stop this video because I'm about out of time here too. But I hope you watch my next video as I continue my story. Thanks. And they said it was the discontinuation syndrome and all of this stuff, and I just, I knew they were wrong on this, but that's what they were saying on the forum, and I was not getting better. And then I was literally so nervous. I started having unbelievable anxiety and nervousness. I was scared that, something bad was going to happen to us. I started worrying obsessively that my mother was going to die. I started worrying that my sister was going to leave and it was just going to be me, all by myself. I thought that Muslims were going to come and blow me up, and blow up our family. This unbelievable obsession and this fear, this irrational fear, that I just could not believe, the irrational fear. And I wanted to move. I was actually pressuring my mom, can we please just move away? Let's go out west to Wyoming or somewhere and get away from all the illegal immigrants. And just this bizarre thinking that I could not explain. And I was hateful to people, very hateful to people. But I remember waking my mom up at night because I was so scared all the time. I just couldn't quit worrying. I couldn't go to sleep. I was just paranoid. And I remember I asked her if she could just sit with me. I was like shaking, shaking at times. And I would be like, Mom, please just sit with me. I'm so scared. Just this bizarre fear and terror that I was having. And I didn't know what to do. I was just at a point that I didn't know what to do. I was so terrified. And I remember during the day when my mom was at work, because it was winter time too, and I couldn't get outside and do anything. She was outside. At work. Excuse me. She was at work. I was inside the house all day during the holidays, holding myself and sitting in a chair in fear, absolute fear. I was scared all the time, just terrified beyond belief. I would sit there literally in my lounge chair right over here, right over there, and I would hold myself in a chair sitting there, just like that, in fear, in absolute fear. Just terrified. I know my eyes were as big as golf balls. I was so scared and shivering and panicking. Well, Mom, she didn't know what to do. I was calling her at work every second of the day. Every second of the day. In absolute fear. And I didn't want to go anywhere. I was just like, I was agoraphobic in the house. And my sister came over one day and saw how bad I was. I don't think she cared, but she saw how bad I was. Me and her don't have a good relationship, and I'll maybe mention that sometime in the video. But she told me, and this is her words, that I just hadn't found the right drug yet. I remember that quote from her for probably the rest of my life. I'll never forget her saying that to me. It's just the drug. It's just you hadn't found the right drug yet. Well, I was nervous and scared. And of course, she was getting all over me because I was driving Mom crazy, even though I was crazy and didn't know why. Just going through unbelievable panic. Still fatigued, but just scared all the time. And if I exercised, I got too stimulated and I panicked more. Just unbelievable what I went through. Just couldn't believe it. I'll give you an example. On Thanksgiving, I just bursted out crying around family because I thought Muslims or somebody was going to come wipe out all my family and all of my little cousins and everybody. Just irrational fear, and I couldn't explain it. Well, I'll get to the next part in my next video. I'm having to cut these short. It seems like my videos are not working as well. So please watch the next video too. Learn more about my story. Thanks. And like I said in my videos, talking about, worrying that Muslims were going to come and hurt my family. And, I know that my family, when they saw me at that time, had to be thinking, God, what a nutcase, this guy is off his rocker. And I was, because of the drugs and the withdrawal. But the thing was, I could not help it. To me, to me, it was real. You know, it may have seemed crazy to all of them, and even when I look back, you know, it's crazy to me too. But it was real to me at that time. It was all completely legitimate, completely real. I was going to die. Muslims and illegal immigrants from the Latin American, you know, they're going to come and kill me, and they're going to come and whack me out, and they're going to come and do all of this. And I really believed it. You know, I really believed that. And scariest thing I've ever been through in my life. I remember when I finally got to go to a doctor. I said, I want to go to a doctor and find out, you know, I must be crazy, because I had no idea, once again, this was withdrawal. I had no idea. Like I said, I made an appointment with a doctor. Her name was Rebecca Suzanne Daly here in Florence. Well, I made an appointment with her, and she, of course, diagnosed me with autism. And I was going to say about my autism that I had, you know, I'm wondering if some of the symptoms that she thought of with me as being autistic were from the drug withdrawal. I had the awkward walk, and she noticed it. It was like I was kind of off balance when I would walk, almost like a drunk walk, but not as severe, but similar. And I had that. I realized that's a withdrawal effect from the SSRI or Benzo withdrawal. And she diagnosed me on top of that as autistic. And she did other tests, which I do believe I have a mild form of autism. I have the hand flapping. I have repetitive things that I do, that I have to do, or I don't feel right. You know, I don't throw a fit like as a child anymore, but I do, you know, I have to do it. If I ate at Burger King every night at 7 o'clock, you know, I feel like I have to eat at Burger King every night at 7 o'clock. It's just, it's the way you feel, and that's what autism is. Well, they diagnosed me with autism, and she diagnosed me with obsessive compulsive disorder, which I think I might have, and I'll get into that in another video sometime, because I had a problem. And I had it long before I ever took an SSRI. But she diagnosed me as obsessive compulsive, and she asked me if I wanted to take Celexa. At least she actually went over the drugs with me, about the dangers of Paxil, Zoloft, you know, which I took before. I told her how bad that was. And she finally went over it, and she actually said that you need to take a drug, you know, you need to take Celexa. She said Celexa is pretty safe. She cut out Paxil, Zoloft, and Lexapro and all those, and she put me on Celexa. Well, I put my mom through so much before that. I mean, I drove her absolutely crazy, keeping her up all night, driving her crazy, because I was so scared to be alone. Like I said, I had this terror feeling that I had all the time, and it was awful. And I drove her crazy. Mom was with me, and of course she kind of made it like I'm crazy, you know. And I thought, you know, I don't want to take these drugs. I really don't, you know. But I was desperate to feel well, and for some reason I thought it's got to be these drugs, but I didn't know. You know, I thought it's got to be withdrawal. I've never been like this, but for some reason I still didn't completely connect it. Well, I took the Celexa at 10 milligrams, and I'll never forget what she told me. I actually waited 2 more weeks because I would not take the drugs. I said, I'm not taking them. You know, I'm not doing it. I don't want to take these. And she said, well, I'll give you 2 weeks and you'll be back. Which, of course, I was, because I was going through the withdrawal, and I did not know that cold turkey and Zoloft after 7 years use was completely foolish and dangerous. But she said, you'll need meds. You have to have meds, or you won't survive. Well, I was just in too bad a shape to argue with her at that time. I was just not mentally right, and I said, okay, I'll take the drug. In 2 weeks, I came back. I, of course, was not any better, so I said, I'll take the drug. Well, I took the drug, and I'll get into that in my next video. As I said, I hope you continue to watch these. I'm having to cut them real short. I appreciate everybody that watches these. Thanks. And when she gave me the Celexa, actually I misspoke, she gave me 20 milligrams, not 10. I took the 20 milligrams. I didn't feel much better. You know, not much better than before. But the symptoms really didn't go away. I still had most of them. The anxiety and everything. I wasn't as panicky, I guess, because once again I got tired again, taking the drug. I was zonked again. So I took the drug. Didn't like it because I started feeling like crap again. I had unbelievable nausea again. I had nausea again. I had the dizziness. I had the drowsiness all the time, and I got so sick of it. And my sister, of course, saying all these drugs are completely safe, because my sister's going into pharmacology. She's going into medicine, so I had no support in this, because she's saying, oh, they're fine, they're safe, they're blah blah blah. She was not supportive at all. My mom really wasn't either. She was getting so sick of me, saying I'm just bad and I'm all of this, and I had no support. But I didn't want to take these drugs anymore. I had planned on getting off of these drugs and making my life better. I knew that I'm not going to be, my life is not going to be anything until I get off these drugs. So I tried to get off, and I went down to 10. I said, I can't stand this. And I told my doctor, I went back in there and saw her. I said, I can't stand this. I feel like complete garbage taking this drug. I feel like crap. So she said, well, go down to 10. Well, I did. I went down to 10 milligrams. And I did a little better. I wasn't as tired, but I still was pretty tired. I still felt like crap, and I was going to mention some of the symptoms I was having on the drug. Actually, when I was on Zoloft, I started having eye floaters. I don't know if anybody knows what eye floaters are, but when you have eye floaters, it's, and for people that have it on here, they'll understand. You'll look around, and it will be like little black floating lines, almost like they're curvy, and they'll float by you, and no matter how much you move your eyes, like if you do that or you look around, they literally stop and they'll go right back every time. You cannot quit seeing them, and it drives you bananas. And sometimes, and I started having that on the drug, and then when I got off the Zoloft, they were all over the place, and it was like a snowstorm of wavy lines, black wavy lines. I remember that. And then on the Celexa, they really didn't go away at all either. But I stayed on the drug, and then I quit at 10 milligrams. I just got tired of taking this thing, And in about a week, I was bad again. My anxiety was up again. I was feeling bad again, and just unbelievable. So I went back on the drug again, back on the 10 milligrams, and stayed there for a while. And that's when I found a website. Thankfully, I was looking at videos on the internet talking about the dangers of these drugs. I'd finally found stuff. In books, I couldn't find anything. Everything was, oh, these drugs are safe, oh, they're this, oh, they're that. And even if you have withdrawal, many of them said you didn't have any withdrawal. But then some would say, oh, you'll have withdrawal, but it'll be about, about 2 weeks or 3 weeks at the most, all this kind of stuff. And finally I found websites saying, oh no, you can have withdrawal for a good long time. And I thought, oh God, I'm never going to get through this. So I found the website, and I was in bad shape at this time, still paranoid, keeping my mom up. At times I did better, but most of the time I was still pretty rough. And of course, the only thing that kept me from keeping her up a lot is I would be zonked out. I would sit down somewhere clunk, just out cold. But I took to the internet, finally got the internet, and I started looking around, and I found a video on psychiatry industry of death. And I took that, I looked at that, and I found a guy on there that had put that video on there, and I emailed him and told him about the drug, and he was saying, get off him as fast as possible. Well, and he mentioned a website that would help me called paxilprogress.org. Well, I followed it. I went to the website and registered, and I asked them about, I told them about my drug history with the Zoloft and then of course the Celexa, and they said taper your Celexa. Well, they didn't say, how much taper or anything, but they said taper. So I did, and I tapered, and I'll get into that in my next video also. So just watch that next one too. Thanks. And as I said, I started tapering the Celexa, and when I started tapering the Celexa, I had horrible symptoms each time. I started tapering, and first I got real tired again. Just this horrible fatigue. I would go to our local track and jog, and literally people half my age were passing me, and I was so fatigued. It was unbelievable fatigue. Well, I stuck with it. I didn't taper right because I didn't have a scale or anything to use to taper right. So I was just cutting it and scraping it with my hand, and everything. Well, I had horrible fatigue. Well, the next time I tapered, I started having rage, anger. I couldn't hardly even control myself. My OCD flew through the roof. I would read something, and if I had OCD, I would just get upset. I'd throw the book across the room or break something. It was awful. I remember I was reading a book, and I had OCD again, thinking horrible thoughts. I couldn't stop. Well, I got mad and ripped the book into shreds. Just literally grabbed the book and just ripped it apart and just, tore it up completely. I had no control over my temper. I was obsessing over everything. I woke up one morning just in an anger, and I got mad at my mom. We got into a fight, and I shoved and knocked her down. First time in my life I have ever done anything like that in my life. And I did it that day. I didn't hit her or knock her down. I shoved her, and she fell. Well, she got up, stormed out. Of course, here I was, just all mad and angry. And I remember sitting down after that, and I was thinking, what am I doing? I was so impulsive, which I know now is a symptom of withdrawal. I was completely impulsive. I could not control half of what I did. I was trying to fix something on my computer one day, and it wasn't working. It wasn't working. I wasn't doing it right, and I got upset and picked up a 5-pound weight from my weight set and threw it through the wall. Just through the wall. Well, I couldn't believe I did that. Just ridiculous. Never been like this in my life. Had temper tantrums, being autistic, nothing like this. I remembered, as I said, my OCD symptoms were absolutely through the roof. I would watch something, boom, I couldn't quit thinking it. I read a word, bam, that's something filthy pop in my head. Bam, bam, bam. It was just all the time. And I kept doing it, and finally it started to ease. The OCD got better, and it was going away. Well, I got down to 5 milligrams, and I stopped. I was feeling good, and I thought, I'll stop. Because I didn't understand about how many milligrams is this and that, And I said, well, I'm going to stop. So I did. After that, I had horrible withdrawal again. I would wake up in a terror. First I woke up and I was completely fatigued. I would sleep. I'll give you an example. I would sleep for 14 hours or 12 hours. 12 to 14 hours. That's a lot of sleep. You should be wide awake by then. I would sleep that. I would wake up, just completely out of it. And in 2 hours, I was tired and ready to go back to bed again. I slept all the time. That finally, even though I stayed fatigued for a long time, that finally went away. And the next symptom I started having was I would wake up in terror. Just an unbelievable terror. And I would wake up in complete fear. Absolute fear. I would wake up shaking and shivering, and it would last all day. Did not go away. I'm sitting there the whole time just with this unbelievable fear and anxiety. And that lasted a couple months. I can't keep track of how long everything lasted because I was crazy. I wouldn't go back on the drug. I stayed off. Well, I stayed off the drug, having this symptom now, and it would last all day. Well, then finally, it would stop at about nightfall. This was winter time, so of course here I was. I couldn't get out of the house, couldn't do anything. It would last all day, all day. But then finally, as I noticed, it would start to get less as time went. The next time, it would last half of a day. Then it started lasting maybe 5 hours, and then 4 to 3 hours, and then about an hour after I got up, and then a few minutes after I got up, and it was gone. But that took many months before that happened. Well, still having the obsessive and impulsive things, I had that forever. Finally, things started to get better. Still had the unbelievable fatigue. I would literally sit. I love to go to bookstores and read. Well, I went to a bookstore to read, and I would go in there and read and just fall asleep. Well, I'll talk more about my withdrawal in the next video. Thanks. So as I said, I would fall asleep. I went to that bookstore and just clung. I mean, I was out cold. Completely out cold. Well, I had that for a long time, and it didn't go away. I thought I would never feel well again, I was so tired all the time. I mean, I would come to my room, sit down, clump. I was out. Just out cold. I remember going to the track and trying to jog. I kept exercising through this whole thing, and I kept doing it, and I was able to do it, but it was hard. I was very fatigued the whole time. I mean, this is over a year now. And I would go and run out of it. I'd get home just completely fatigued. I would lay on the bed, clunk. I was out cold and would sleep the whole time. I mean, at least I was sleeping though, so I was thankful for that. And then my next symptom, I started breaking out in little hives, little itchy spots. They were like little squares. Some of them were big. One of them was like that big, and they'd be all over, mostly on my legs, on my leg area. But I also had them a few times on my face and my midsection, but mostly it was my legs. They would get there, and of course they were itchy all over. I remember that. And that lasted for several months. One of them would go away, and then boom, here come another one. I remembered my face got real oily. Now, I'd had oily skin when I was younger, and I had a lot of acne as a teenager. But this was unbelievable. I mean, it was dripping off my face. It was so disgusting. It would drip off my face. I was so oily skinned, and I knew it had to be from the drugs because it was all of a sudden. And then I just broke out all over my face with pimples, just like I was a teenager. I was a little kid again. And I said, this is withdrawal. It has to be. And that lasted for a while. Finally, I'd say after a couple of months, it finally went away. And everything started clearing up. I started feeling better. And I thought, I wasn't perfect yet, but I thought, I did it. I did it, well, for a while I was okay. Then I started having OCD again. I mean, I thought I was fine. This was a couple of months, and I really thought I'm through the worst of it. It's been a little over a year and something months, about 6 months I'd been off of Celexa. Well, in my 7th month, everything started coming back again. The OCD, that started coming back fierce, and I was worried about getting older, and I wouldn't look as good, and all of this kind of stuff, and, couldn't quit thinking it, couldn't stand the wintertime like shocking, touching, and I'm very sensitive physically anyway because of my autism. Well, I didn't quite know, what I was going to do. Here I was, and I was hypersensitive. I didn't know that at the time, but the hypersensitive that you become. Anytime I touched anything, it was like whoosh, just unbelievable shock. It would drive me crazy. Here I am, autistic, and I'm dealing with this, and I was just about to go crazy. And eased up a little. I would not go back on the drug. I just refused. Still having the problems, the sensitivity. Then all of a sudden, I started having chest pains when I would walk. It was like the little, like, I don't know if you ever had the growing pains, as people used to call them. Like something inside would just pop, in your chest. And I would have that. Of course, it was freaking me out again. Now I was starting to get bad again. I actually had one day, I had it 3 times while I walked, and I got bad. And there was actually a lady there who was a former nurse who understood what I was going. She said, "Do you need to call an ambulance?" And I said, "Yeah, I really think it'd be best." Well, I called an ambulance. They checked me out, and I was fine. Of course, my heart rate, they checked everything, the little thing in my mouth, I was fine. And they said, "What's going on?" I said, "Well, I've been off an SSRI for 6 months. Could it be that?" No. I heard. Let me backtrack a little bit. I'm going to do that in the next video because I forgot to mention it. But the symptoms I had while I tapered were just unbelievable, and I actually messed up on some of them, and I'm going to mention them in my next video. So I hope you watch that next one because I want to take plenty of time to talk about one of the horror symptoms that I had. You'll be interested to hear about it. Thanks. So I wanted to talk again about another symptom that I had. Well, I shouldn't even be laughing. It wasn't funny when I was having it. It was my vision. I got to where my vision got very strange, and I finally went and got it checked, but I could not watch TV. My eyes were so sensitive. I had a hard time even looking at the computer screen. I had to turn my bright picture down. It was so bright. I couldn't stand it. Just driving me crazy. I would turn it down. Sometimes I couldn't stand outside very long because the sun bothered me. So I started getting shades to put on my eyes. And just unbelievable. I would watch TV, and like, for example, when you're watching a movie and the screen moves real fast, real fast. When I would watch it and it moved real fast, it hurt my eyes. It was like I was going, and it would just drive me crazy. And I had that for the longest. I couldn't even watch cartoons because for some reason the cartoon screen bothered my eyes, and I couldn't even watch movies. I could watch something live, like a football game or a TV show, like a news show, like Fox. Well, even the football games sometimes, like when I love football, obviously, I love football, and like when the quarterback throws the football to a receiver and he guns it, the screen moves fast. I couldn't stand it. It would bother my eyes and it would upset me. And I can't even watch the stupid TV. I figured it was withdrawal, but this stuff lasted so long, I thought it's not going away. Well, I just didn't watch sports, movies, or nothing. And basically all I could watch was the news because at least they weren't darting back and forth, and they were just sitting still. And I would watch the news. That was all I watched for months on end because I couldn't watch anything else. It was just destroying my nerves, and everybody was upset with me, and I would talk about it. My parents didn't believe me. Well, my mom, I should say, didn't believe me. You're kind of making this stuff up. You're exaggerating it. My sister was the same way. She was even worse, saying that I'm just acting like a child, and you're just not better because you don't want to be better, just all of this. And I couldn't even read sometimes. If the print was not big, I couldn't read. I would try to read, and it would strain my eyes, it was like that, I couldn't read, and I love reading. It's one of the things I love to do. So, of course, here I was not being able to do 2 things that I love to do: watch sports on TV and read, and I couldn't do either one, and all because of this stupid drug, what a joke. And I was still going through it. I went to an eye doctor. I had my eyes checked, making sure I was okay. They said, "You're okay, you're fine." They said, "You do have a few floaters in your eyes, but your vision is fine." And I asked them, "Well, could my Zoloft be doing this and making my vision all strange?" And they said, "No, we don't think it's the Zoloft." I mentioned Celexa too, and they said, "No, we don't think it's the Celexa." And I said, "Okay." Went home. Had that problem for the longest, and even now it ain't perfectly better, but it's much better now. I don't strain to read anymore, and I can actually watch some sports and things like that. Had that, as I said, for the longest. I mean, that was well over 7 to 8 months. Just couldn't believe this, you know. Had that. Gonna mention some more of my other videos. For some reason, my time is really bad on these videos, so hope you get these better. Thanks. So as I said, you know, I was having the vision problems, and I went to an eye doctor and had that checked, and they said it was fine. And just, you know, this will become a very repeated pattern for me with doctors not listening to a thing I'm saying, you know. And oh, it's not the drug, it's not withdrawal. I mean, I had, even before, you know, long ago when my withdrawal first started, I had crying spells where I would just sit there and literally cry for hours on end, and I didn't know what I was crying about, and that was horrible. Just wouldn't stop. But getting back to my eyes, that problem just lasted forever and ever and ever. Finally, months later, many months later, it started easing. I mean, for a while, not only was it hard to read or watch TV, when I would go outside and go jog, my eyes were so sensitive, I couldn't even look off in the distance because my eyes bothered me so bad. Just ridiculous. I mean, that, you know, that you could go through all of this hell for months and years. I don't care how long you've been taking a drug. But my eyesight finally got better, and my energy finally started coming back. It wasn't completely perfect. I still would go and get fatigued when I jogged. But it was better. And I was starting to get better, and I really thought that, you know, after the eye problem, then, you know, I thought I'm really getting better. Like I said, that this was my 7th month now off. And that's when everything, you know, of course, started coming back, the chest pains, as I said, and I started getting zaps. Zaps in my feet. Pins and needle feelings. I didn't have it all the time, but I started getting pins and needle feelings. Had not had those before. First it hurt and it was an annoyance, but I kept jogging anyway. Then I finally had to stop and just do it on my treadmill. I seemed to do fine there, and not as good on the treadmill. Well, I used to sit in the tub for a while. I just, you know, when I was going through all that horrible anxiety and not feeling like doing anything, and it was cold outside, so I would sit in the tub. Well, I sat in the tub, and one night my foot started hurting. Well, actually, I should say before then. I was sitting, went to sleep in my bed, and bam, it woke me out of my sleep. It was the most horrible pain I'd ever had in my life. It was just like somebody was taking a knife and jamming it in my foot, on the side of my foot, where my toe was. And it woke me out of sleep, and I woke up just hurting, and it was like it was on fire, like something was trying to push its way out of my foot. And I was hurting so bad, and I was crying, and I called Mom, and I said, Mom, what the hell do I do? I'm hurting so bad, I can't stop. You know, I was just hurting so bad. And, you know, she didn't know what to do. She was at work, and here I was just in so much pain. Finally, it eased. After about an hour, it eased and went away. I went back to sleep, and I was fine. A couple of weeks later, I was sitting in my bathtub, and it started again. Got out of the tub, it kept doing it. I would wait. It didn't happen all. It was just like every few seconds, zoom, zoom. It was just a horrible, stinging, zapping pain in my foot, side of my foot, my left foot. And it was just freaking me out. I couldn't go to sleep then after that. My anxiety had shot through the roof again. My cortisol, which is your stress hormone, if you don't know what that is your stress hormone. And I know it was through the roof at that time. I would go lay down in bed. I slept 2 hours, woke up, pains in my feet started again. I was freaking out. I couldn't even sit down. It was hurting so bad. It would just happen frequently over and over again. I was freaking out. It was like a spasm, and it was hurting so bad. I waited, and finally I said, I'm going to have to go. You know, I laid down one night to go to sleep, and my restless legs started. I was able to finally go to sleep, but I laid down, and the restless leg feeling, which I didn't know that's what that was at the time, was horrible. It just was a nightmare feeling, and just didn't know what to do. You know, pains were horrible. Well, I'm going to get back to that in my next video. Okay, now getting back to my restless leg again. The restless leg was awful, just absolutely horrible. I mean, I would lay down to sleep. It was like a little poking on my feet all the time, and sometimes it would be like there was little knives or little veins exploding in my feet. You couldn't sleep. There was no way to sleep. And I would sit there trying to relax, could not. Absolutely could not relax. And then finally it would be like a zap in my feet. I'd be laying there trying to relax, and zoom, it would just hit. Worst pain I'd ever had in my life. It hurt so bad, and it scared me so bad. I literally sat up. Of course, I couldn't sleep that night, and I was just holding my feet, holding them the whole night. I was up all night long, sitting in the bed, holding my feet, just grabbing them and holding them. Unbelievable. I mean, that was the worst symptom I had. It was awful. Just pain that I could not describe. It hurt so bad for me. I couldn't relax. I couldn't go to bed, so I was up all night. I finally said, I got to go to my psychiatrist or doctor or something. I got to see somebody. Well, I went to a doctor, went to the emergency room, nothing. I went in there. My feet still killing me like that. They said, what do you need? What do you know, why are you here? And I went to the emergency room and I said, I'm having this horrible pain in my foot. I didn't even mention the restless leg yet, but I mentioned the pain in my foot. And they said, okay, let's see it. And they did an x-ray and everything and said I was fine. Once again, I asked them, could it be the SSRI drugs? Could it be the Zoloft or Withdrawal or Celexa Withdrawal, And they said, no. Again, no, it's not the Celexa Withdrawal. And so they said probably anxiety. Anxiety, and Mom was already just irate with me. She was so mad I even took her to the emergency room. She complained the whole time, and I was sitting there just hurting so bad, and them saying it was nothing, so I went home. Didn't sleep again that night. Pain started again. Just sat there with the restless leg holding my feet all night long. Unbelievable, horrible. I could not sleep. So I said, I got to go to my psychiatrist. I got to see somebody. I went in there to see the psychiatrist. And I guess you might probably already know what he said. First off, I told him, what happened and everything. My mom was with me. And I told him about the restless leg and the horrible pains in my feet. He was writing all kinds of things down. I don't think he had a clue what was going on. And then he said, it's probably anxiety. So it's probably anxiety. Just couldn't believe this, Hurting. I was hurting so bad in those nights. He said it's probably anxiety. Maybe you need something for anxiety. So he was going to write me a prescription for Buspar, or Buspar, I should say. He pronounced it Buspar because he's from Nigeria. He's a Nigerian doctor, and he was saying, "Did you want some Buspar?" And he suggested, of course, that I take Buspar, and I said, okay, I'll take it. I didn't. I didn't take it, but he suggested it, and I took it home. Here I was, hurting so bad. Mom didn't believe me. She was, oh yeah, it's probably just his anxiety. Never had pains like that in my life. I've had anxiety in my life. Never anything like that. Just horror. And it even got worse. I'll tell you about that in my next video. And getting back now to my story, the restless leg, I took the Buspar. Excuse me. And I was just thinking, why was he giving me Buspar? I'm sitting here hurting. I don't need, he was telling me, oh, it's anxiety. I don't need nothing for anxiety. I needed something from pain, damn it. I'm sitting here hurting so bad that I didn't know what to do. And all he could do was give me something for anxiety. I couldn't believe this. I was so irate, and I said, I've never had this pain before. I told him that. I said, I've never had this before in my life. What do I do? I've never had this one time. And he had no answer. He didn't have an answer. Either he didn't have an answer or he knew exactly what it was and would not tell me. But, I went home. I didn't take the Boost part. I actually took one pill. They said, it takes 2 weeks for it to start working for anxiety. And I'm thinking, well, forget it. I'd gone back on the SSRI, the Celexa. I'd gone up to 10 milligrams, but it had not worked yet. It takes the drug at least about 4 weeks to start working. Ridiculous. But what's funny is by the 4th week, the pains were gone. The feet zaps were gone. I also had back pains. It was like shooting pains. You'd be sitting there and it was like an electric current going through your back. It would just bang. And it hurt so bad that my anxiety had gone through the roof. The feet pains, the restless leg at night, the back pains. I was just to a point I was about ready to kill myself because I just couldn't take it anymore. And I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe I was going through this. 7 months off of a drug, and since the Celexa still had not technically worked, it was 9 months. 9 months. And I was going through this still from that drug. Either the Celexa or I was still through the Zoloft withdrawal because, of course, I tapered too fast. Unbelievable horror that I can't explain how bad it was. I would just go home and just cry because I thought I'm never going to be well. I remember coming home from the doctor that day, and I rode with my aunt, who, by the way, if you want to know, is a pill popper. She takes all these drugs. She takes Valium all the time. Sleep. Takes all kinds of other drugs. She has a medicine cabinet. It looks like a pharmacy. My grandmother was with us, too, and she said, honey, I just wish, baby, you could find something to make you feel better. And, of course, I'd had no sleep again. 2 minutes of sleep? And my aunt, I'll never forget what she said. He'll never be able to get off these drugs, Mama. He'll take those for the rest of his life. And I'll never forget that. And I thought, hell no. I'm not taking these drugs the rest of my life. I will get off. Well, I went home. They'd also gave me a prescription for Ambien, which I had to have it. I said, I got to have something to sleep. I cannot sleep. And they gave me the prescription for Ambien, 10 milligrams. Well, I took the Ambien, and it helped a little bit. I would sleep. And I can't show you, but right over here behind me, over on the other side, is a chair. And that's what I slept in for at least 2 months. I haven't slept in my room in 5 to 6 months. I slept in that chair, and I would literally curl up and, hold my feet before I went to sleep. I would take the Ambien, just like this. I was zonked out. I would go to bed, zonked out, and lay down and go to sleep. That's what I did. Every night for 2 months. Get up, outside, take my pill, being up all night long, doped out of my mind. I would take the pill, wait until I was zonked out completely, go inside, lay down. Many times not even remember laying down, thanks to the Ambien. I found out that's another wonderful thing it gives you. Lay down, holding my feet until I went to sleep. Every night for 2 months. Actually 3 months. Just horror. I'll tell you more in my next video. And being back now, the pains were so bad from my feet. Just couldn't believe I was going through this. Words do not describe what I went through. And also, when I went back on the Celexa, I had anxiety when I went back on the Celexa. I didn't have it the last time I did, but this time when I went back on after 7 months being off that crap, I have what I didn't know you have, and that's anxiety. Increased anxiety and akathisia. If you don't know what akathisia is, it's an inner restlessness, and it is horrible. It's not a good hyperactivity feeling. It's not like drinking coffee and having energy and feeling good. It's this horrible energy and horrible feeling. Makes you want to kill somebody or yourself. It's awful. I can't even describe how bad I felt. And my anxiety shot up so bad I could not relax. My feet pains got worse, of course, because my anxiety went up. And it was just a nightmare. I had to take Xanax. I actually had to ask my sister to let me take a few Xanax just to calm me down and relax. My pains were so bad during that time, I was on my feet 24 hours a day. I never sat down. I walked around all the time. My family just all over me. I was calling my mom again. I was just, God, I could not relax. I was needing to get my medicine. I couldn't get my doctors to listen to me. I would be out of medicine. I was needing something. I didn't know what to do. I even thought about committing myself because I was crazy. It wouldn't stop. It was a nightmare. And no one believed me. Nobody believed me. Mom would call my aunt that's on all the drugs and everything, and she'd be like, "Well, I don't know what's wrong with him. Maybe he just needs to go somewhere." My sister came over one night, and I was hurting so bad again. And of course, she was thinking I'm hurting Mom. All of this, just blaming me that I'm hurting my mother, and I'm being such an awful son, and you don't deserve what you have. You just you're just so full of crap, and I'm just putting up with all this nonsense and hurting so bad, and I was sitting there, and I finally just bursted out, hurting so bad, and I just said, "God, I just want to quit." I was just like this, with tears running down my face, and I said, "God, just please let me quit hurting. I want to get back with my life again. Just please." I was just to pieces. And they both got quiet after bad-mouthing me the whole time, along with my sister. And she looks at my mother, and she says, "I can't believe you put up with him. I would just throw him out." And I'm thinking, I'm not making this up. I am hurting so bad that I can't keep still. I can't do anything. And she said that about me. She said that. That's the way she was. She treated me that way. It's unbelievable. No support. I just couldn't believe it. She got mad again, my sister did, because I kept calling Mom. I was going crazy. Everybody at her workplace thought I was a nut, and they ought to throw me out of the house. She came over with me in pain, got all over me, and said, "You are a bad person. You can't deal with just a little pain." Oh, it was horrible pain. I couldn't sit down. My nerves were through the roof, and it was getting hot outside. I was smothering to death. And she just got all over me again. Told me what a bad person I was, how mean a person I was. You should quit being the way you are. You're treating Mom awful. All of this crap. And I just couldn't believe this. I could not believe what I was enduring. And I didn't even care. And she badmouthed me and said, "If you keep it up, I'm going to have you committed, or I'm going to throw you out. I'm going to tell Mom to throw you out of the house." What was I going to do? What could I possibly do to make them understand how awful I was feeling? Nothing. I just didn't know what to do anymore. I was just to a point I wanted to die. I was so suicidal. I literally told God to just kill me. Please just kill me. I was so angry with Him, so angry with my family. I just didn't know what to do. I'll tell you more in the next video. Well, and if I thought that the problems were over then, I was just getting started. The pains finally started to ease after about a month of just living hell. Still going to bed on the couch, like I said, holding my feet, terrified, scared, just going absolutely mad. Excuse me. And I didn't know what to do. Finally was getting better though. And I was on the 10 milligrams of Celexa, 10 milligrams of Ambien. Well, I finally decided I got to start, I got to get off this Ambien, because I'll tell you why. I was getting violent. First off, I was a zombie. Now think about this. When I first started taking the Ambien, I was hurting with my feet. When you relaxed is when the feet started hurting the worst. Like when you're going, and you're dozing off, the feet start to zap, tingle, all this stuff, just driving you crazy. So I had to try to keep from doing that. Well, I would take Ambien, go to sleep, wake up the next morning or night, whatever, because my sleeping habits were just completely gone. I would wake up and I would be so zonked. I felt like I was having a hangover. Here I am, never drank alcohol in my life, and I'm having hangovers from the stupid Ambien. I was a zombie. I was trying to keep my eyes open, trying to just do the best I could do to stay up, to not go to sleep. And I was hurting so bad that I did not know what I was going to do. I was so annoyed. I just could not believe I was going through this. And I was trying to stay awake with my eyes like this, just half open, and still hurting. It didn't stop. Finally it did. And I got violent because my mom just would not listen to me. I had to get up. I would wake up with horrible anxiety. Horrible anxiety. I mean, I'm talking about jumping through the window anxiety. And I just had to get out and go somewhere. I knew it was late, but I thought, I just got to get out. Of course, I can't drive. So I'm having to have her take me. I said, Mom, I got to get out, please. My nerves are so bad. She would go out and complain all the time. Oh, you just want your way. You're just being a spoiled brat. I said, Mom, please, I got to get out. My nerves are so bad. Because when I was home, it was all I thought about, because I had it all the time. And when I started trying to, I still took the Ambien, I started having things, twitchings, just jerking. And I thought, I got to get off this stuff. And also I got very violent again. Mom started in on me, just complaining and griping, and I shoved her into the wall. I just got so sick of it, I shoved her into the wall. Bang, she went in the wall. She threatened to leave at least 10 times. Maybe all by myself. I knew I was dangerous, I knew I was, but what was I going to do? That was the drugs, it wasn't me. I don't do these things. And, nobody believed me still. No one believed what I said. Nobody believed anything. It was literally just a nightmare that I can't describe. Couldn't believe what I was going through. Finally, I said, I got to get off this Ambien. So I did. I started tapering. First, I said, I'm going to go from 10 to 5 milligrams. I'd only been on it 2 months. I thought, well, I'll just go from 10 to 5. Oh, God. I went from 10 to 5. I woke up the next day twitching, tired, and I was twitching. Just, my mouth would go, just all over the place. It didn't hurt, but you would twitch. Just uncontrollable twitching, and it would not stop. I was freaking out. I went to walk at our track. I walked. I'd not done that in a long time, but I finally had been able to start going back again. Started walking, and I got home that night, and my face just started being in pain. It was like it was swelling up, I fell on the floor, going nuts, just going crazy, and I didn't know what to do. I just didn't even know what to do, hurting and all of this. I was still twitching. I would go to the bowling alley at night just to have somewhere to go, and I had a panic attack the first night I went when I was there. My heart rate shot up. I was sweating, scared, obviously panicking. Thought I was going to have to leave, but it finally calmed back down and I was okay. At all that, So I went back to 10 milligrams after I was freaking out. The twitchings finally slowly started going away, and I tapered slow. I got down to about 7 milligrams, and one night I missed my dose. I fell asleep because I was so out of it all the time. I'd sit down and clump. Finally, was starting to be able to sit down and relax and everything. And I go clump. Well, I missed a couple of days, and I started having withdrawal. I went back on the drug and stayed on it. First time I quit, I said I'm just going to see how I do without it. First time I stopped, I had unbelievable fatigue, worn out. Had no energy the whole day, so I went back on it. And then the day after that, I tapered and stopped again. I had twitchings again, though, and all that. And twitching, I would twitch when I would go to sleep. I'll tell you about that in my next video. Then the third time I quit, restless leg was real bad again. Just unbelievable that I could not get off these damn drugs. Unbelievable. I'll tell you more about that next video. And as I said, I'm going to talk about the twitchings. When I lay down to go to sleep, and it was worse back then, it's kind of getting better. I think I'm overcoming, this slowly. But when I would lay down to sleep, especially if I was outside looking on my internet, like, how you doze off, you're sitting there and you're dozing off. I would start to doze off, and I would go, just this jerk. It was like my whole body just jolted. And it was awful. Man. It was a nightmare. It would happen all the time, when I would try to do that. But I was able to sleep. I would fall asleep and sleep. Every once in a while I would have the horrible restless leg, but it was getting much better. I finally, after staying on the Ambien at 6 milligrams, I quit and I stayed off. My restless leg got really rough again. I couldn't even walk around. I couldn't go to the track. I still couldn't jog. I would zap, 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 zap. Like little tingling, zapping pains and sticking pains, pins and needle pains and things like that. Just awful, And I couldn't believe this. It was doing it again. It wasn't as bad, but it was still doing it again. And I could not walk around. Right now, I can't even wear shoes. I just wear sandals. And I'm going to stop that when the weather gets, cold again, which I dread. It's been just a living nightmare. I'm now off everything. I just quit the Celexa too. I hope I do okay. I've been off for about maybe 2 weeks. I hope the symptoms don't come back real bad again. I kind of had some little bit of pain today. It wasn't severe, or anything, but still had it. I hope it doesn't get worse. I don't know, but I'm off. I'm off the drugs. It's just been a living hell, I can't even completely describe what I went through, and it's awful, and I can't completely describe it, but you get the gist of what I've gone through. It's a nightmare. It's a living hell. I had withdrawal from Zoloft, Celexa, Xanax, Ambien. Ambien was horrid too. And going to doctors. I'm so shell-shocked by this. I've been so traumatized by this. I'll never trust a doctor ever again. I could never trust one again. How could I trust them? How could I believe anything they say when I went to a regular doctor, a nurse practitioner, psychiatrist, a emergency room doctor, and they all told me that they didn't know what I was going through, but it wasn't the drugs. It wasn't withdrawal. They'd never heard of withdrawal. But what am I supposed to do when your family thinks that you're nothing, that you're a nutcase, and you explain this stuff to people, and they look at you like you're an idiot? How do you handle that? How do you deal with this when no one believes you? And you get to a point and you think, well, maybe there is something wrong with me. And I almost got that way too except for two websites that saved me and kept me sane. That was paxoprogress.org that I found. They really helped me. They're the only ones that kept me sane, because they were going through a lot of the stuff I was going through. I remember the first time I got on the website, I thought, man, I ain't telling these people this. If I tell them everything that's happened to me, they're going to think I'm some kind of whack job. They're going to think I'm nuts or something. And they're probably just having nausea or something, I went on there, and it was the same things that I was having. And that's when I knew, it's the drugs. It's the drugs. Paxo Progress kept me sane, and there's a lot of good people on that website that have saved my life many times. And BenzoWithdrawal.com is a great website too, especially it helps those that are coming off of benzodiazepines. On each of my profile names, you'll notice I put benzo. That's what we call it for short. But it's a benzodiazepine. Ambien works a lot like a benzodiazepine. It's very similar. I got one more video that I want to make, because I don't want to go too far along on this one. And I'm going to wrap it up and tell you exactly what happened with me. What I want to say is a closing statement. So watch the next video, and that'll be the last one. Thanks. So as you can see, this is my last video. You get what I'm talking about. You get the gist. It's a living hell. I wanted to apologize first for making so many parts. My internet videos don't work very well, and I want to apologize for that. It's just not working as well. But I hope you all watch these, and I hope it helps somebody, because this is not a nightmare. This shouldn't happen to anybody. And the thing I'm thinking of is doctors either don't know, or they're lying to our face and not telling us. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it is that, but there's something going on. I suffered so bad. Still am. I'm not over this yet. I'm just kind of in a period where I'm not too bad right now. I don't know if I'll have to make another video if it's going to get worse. But you can tell by the videos that I've made, and you can tell by what I've said and done on this video. It's a living hell. I've lost everything. I lost basically every kind of friend I have. My family hates me. My sister thinks I'm a joke. My mom basically has threatened to leave so many times and probably leave me by myself. I just don't need to be alone right now. I probably will be if I snap and do something else, because of the drugs, the withdrawal, and everything else. So you can see it's a living hell. And if you're going through this, and there's a lot of people who are going through this, and they're in the midst of the hell, they don't feel it's ever going to end. Trust me, it gets better. Don't kill yourself. Don't do it. You'll want to. I know what you're feeling. You will definitely want to kill yourself. Don't kill yourself. It gets better. Okay? It honestly gets better. I'm going to look right at the camera. Trust me, it will get better. Don't kill yourself. Hang in there. I know it's a nightmare. SSRI and benzo withdrawal is almost exactly the same. Benzos, I think, are a little worse because the half-life of the drugs, which is how long the drug stays in your body, is usually about 8 or 9 hours, so it's over in a day. Unlike SSRIs that can last about a week. But guys, you heard my story. It's a nightmare. And there's people that had it even worse than me. We're not alone. I'm not alone in this. I thought I was at first when I started going through all this. Folks, this is horrible. Something's got to be done. These drugs are so deadly. They're costing people their lives, their families, their friends, marriages, jobs, you name it. They have been the leading indicator in a lot of school shootings the past decade or two. The Columbine massacres, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold. I can't remember if they were on Luvox or had just come off the antidepressant Luvox. Sean Cooper, the one that killed his family. I don't remember. I hope that's the wrong. That might be the wrong name. So don't take that as a fact. But there was a boy who killed his parents, grandparents that he was living with. He murdered them, He blamed it on the Zoloft, taking the drug Zoloft. O.J. Simpson, when he committed his murders, was actually taking Prozac at the time. Folks, these drugs are horrible. I took Zoloft, and I went through withdrawal too. I know what it does to you. You're not normal. You're not a human being at that point. You don't think straight. I think you're liable to do anything. And I do think the drug controls you while you're on it, and when you quit through withdrawal. It's a nightmare. And guys, something's got to be done, and that's why even if I recovered tomorrow, which I know I won't, it could be a long, long time before I'm ever better again. We got to fight these people. Something's got to be done. Too many people have suffered, not just me, but millions of people that are on Paxil Progress, Benzo Withdrawal.com, and the world over have suffered because of these drugs. There are good people who are coming out and speaking out about these things. I'm talking about people that are educated and knowledgeable. People like doctors like Peter Brigham, who've been out for years. David Healy, a doctor in Great Britain. Joseph Glenn Mullen wrote a great book that helped me, The Antidepressant Solution. Robert Whitaker's a great journalist. His book, Anatomy of an Epidemic, about mental illness in America. Great book. I'm going to make a video hopefully on that later on. Guys, we got to do something. We can't let people suffer like this anymore. Something has to be done. It's ridiculous. Something has to be salvaged from this. We can't let people go through this anymore. People are dying from this, and their lives are being ruined. So please, if you're on these drugs, please try to get off. Taper slow. If you've been on, especially if you've been on them for a year or more, please taper. And if you need help, go to the two websites. Go to PaxilProgress.org if you're on SSRIs, or if you're on Benzos, go to BenzoWithdrawal.com. They can help you and guide you. Don't listen to these books and these websites that say, oh, you know, if you go through the withdrawal, it'll be over in 3 weeks. In 3 weeks, don't listen to all that. You go to the forums. Go to those places that are going through what you're going through, if that's what you are going through. And they will guide you, and they will help you get through this. I appreciate all of you who watch these videos, because I want to make a difference. I'm going to write my congressman. I'm going to do everything. People should not suffer this garbage. It's time. Enough is enough. And I'm going to make more videos telling you more truths about the psychiatry industry. I appreciate you. I appreciate everybody that watches this. I'm going to leave my email address on my website. On my YouTube profile. If you want to contact me, I'll go ahead and mention it on here. It's asm417@juno.com. And if you want to get in contact with me, just email me anytime. I'd be welcome to accept any emails that you send. Anybody needs a question and any support, I would really appreciate. Because I know I'm not done yet. It could get worse again. It comes and it goes. It's just like we call it windows, which is when you're fine, and then the waves. But I wanted to say thank you to everybody who watches these. Stay away from SSRIs. Stay away from benzos. They're a living hell on them and off them. This is Shane saying thank you.